But you heard Colin Cowherd off the top discussing the Patriots and whether or not they are a playoff team. In his estimation, they are a playoff team. He said Drake May is the second best quarterback in the division. He doesn't think it's close.
What is that? That's way too much.
You think that's way too much?
No. The playoff team part. So Drake May, second best quarterback. And really, it comes down to he versus Tua, right? So you have an obvious best quarterback in the division, Josh Allen. Mm-hmm. The Jets have Justin Fields for now. Who knows if he even starts the whole season? He's been bounced around the league, so he's clearly last. Do you like Tua or do you not like Tua? And if you're worried about Tua's injuries and everything else, then you'd have him third. If you're just taking on what they've done in the league, and I'm one of these, like, I've never liked Tua. I didn't like Tua at Alabama. I didn't like him coming out of the draft. And so he's had a lot of really good games, and I've had to look the other way. But, like, right now, I think Tua's better. I think by the end of the year, I think it should safely be Drake May. But today, it's probably Tua. But just because you have the second best quarterback in the division does not make you a playoff team.
So this is also how I feel. It's like, is Drake May better than Tua? I think it's a debate.
Sure, maybe.
I'd land where you are, which is Tua's done it, Drake hasn't. One's a projection. And, like, I'd rather build a team around Drake than Tua going forward. But who's actually better? Now I got to pick one to go win a game. You know what Tua is. You don't know what Drake is. I probably would still, err on the side of caution and go with Tua. But even if it's a debate and you go with Drake May, that doesn't all of a sudden make you the second best team in the division. Even if you are the second best team in the division, that doesn't guarantee a playoff spot.
Like last year?
The Twitch chat is pointing out, Cowherd said he expects the Patriots to double their win total from last year. That would get them to eight wins.
Doesn't get you in the playoffs.
Now, he said double their win total.
Famously won't get you in.
He said double their win total easy, which maybe means they could get to 9 or 10.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, I don't know that I can come out and say the Patriots are a playoff team. They are better than they were a year ago. Their schedule is a joke, and so I guess I understand some of the logic in that they should win 7 or 8 games. I'd confidently say they're competing for a playoff spot next year, and maybe they are doubling their win total. But playoff team without a left tackle or a wide receiver. And I got news for you. Vrabel can say there's tons of offseason left, and Alonzo Highsmith keeps advising there's tons of offseason left, and it's not over yet. Free agency, pretty much over. Maybe you swing a deal, maybe you add a ton of talent in the draft, but free agency, for all intents and purposes, done. So this is kind of your team, and I can't say they're a playoff team.
Yeah, they're better. I think they're going to be better coached, and they should be better defensively. But how are they going to be a lot better on offense? Or even a little bit better, right? So a little bit better, you would say, all right, Drake May year 2, knock on wood, 17 games at Drake May instead of 12 or whatever it was a year ago. So you're banking on that. He also has one real win as a starter. So there's that part of it.
Correct.
And you and I like Drake May. But
he's been replaced twice and the team won without him twice.
So you kind of have to point that out. So like for guys like Colin Cowherd, like Tua's not as good. It's like, all right, Drake May has one win. Or like when Kern was on with us last week and was like, he's better than Baker Mayfield. I was like, he is already? Like, I don't think so. We can like him, but it seems like we're taking these big leap forward. And to go from 4 wins to 8 wins would be a great improvement. That'd be a hell of a step in the right direction. That also probably means the last month of the season, you're playing games that matter. You're in the hunt. That's my goal for this year.
In the hunt.
The in the hunt graphic that pops up when they have the playoff teams, then like 3 or 4 teams that aren't in there, but they are in the hunt.
In bracket parlance, Keefe, you want to be first 4 out.
You want to be a snub.
Exactly.
You want to get snubbed.
You want to be one of the biggest snubs in the tournament.
That's what you want. The Patriots, meanwhile, they were eliminated by like Thanksgiving. You're like, all right, they're not going to make it.
No.
Like, I want meaningful games. We talk about this with like the Red Sox. We're like, are they going to be in it in the final month? Is the whole season worth playing out? Or have you been mathematically eliminated way before your final games? So I think they can do that. But to say they're a playoff team is... it's maybe too bold a flavor for me, because you look at last year's teams and even some of the teams that missed the playoffs, like Cincinnati missed the play. They had another slow start. In fact, the Patriots beat them. The Patriots cost them a playoff spot by beating them week 1.
Yep.
But they just brought back Chase and Higgins, and that's one of the teams that also missed. So if you look at all the teams that made it from last year, and then you're like, all right, how do you knock a couple of them out, and then who's going to replace them? I don't know. There are better teams out there. Even if you're looking at 4-win teams, wouldn't a team like the Raiders actually be somebody that's, with their coaching change, their quarterback change, they might be a better team than the Pats this year.
Right. Not that I love the Raiders.
No, I'm not picking either one.
You go from Aiden O'Connell to Sam Darnold, who won 14 games last year. I'm sorry. Yeah, Gino. You're right. Gino. Duh.
Gino
sorry, Sam Darnold's with Seattle.
Could they turn it around a little bit? Maybe.
So, yeah, maybe. And I'm not ready to say they're a playoff team with, vast holes all over the roster. And Keith, you pointed this out last week. We really should throw this in Vrabel's face more. Vrabel said, we're going to go through free agency. We're going to fill out our roster, and we're going to let the draft come to us. Are you letting the draft come to you when you don't have a number 1 or 2 wide receiver? I don't think. Maybe you think that's too harsh. And you don't have a left tackle? Is that letting the draft come to you?
Doesn't feel like it.
Or are the Patriots going to have to draft for need because they didn't fully do their job in free agency? I like what they did on defense. I like that they spent money. I like most of the signings they made, but they still have massive holes on offense. Massive.
Oh, yeah. I mean, to the second and third most important positions on offense would be wide receiver, left tackle, and you don't have either one. So even if you save it for the draft and you just stay at 4, maybe you get one of them, right? And then there's still like a fingers crossed, let's hope that the rookie is ready to go. And then what? You're going to try to get another one in the second round like you did with Jalen Polk? So, like, there's no guarantee that you do it in the draft. And I like the guys that they signed. I like the guys that they brought in. But going back to Vrabel's point about being ready to go and, ready to play a game tomorrow and then let the draft happen, you added a linebacker, a D tackle, and a corner. All pretty good players.
Yeah.
But I feel like you could have played a game without any of those guys. Like your D-line, like you traded Godchow and you brought in Milton Williams. Now that's a step up. Like Milton Williams is better, but you had an NFL D-line, it felt like. Your corners, you had a dominant corner in Gonzalez, and then your other guys kind of filling in, and you went out and got Carlton Davis. All right, that's great. But you've avoided 2 of your biggest omissions, which is what Elliott Wolf did last year, and we killed him for it. Your offensive line sucks. Your wide receivers are bad, but at least then you're like, I guess we're banking on Jalen Polk, who even he banked on. He said so as much. Remember? He's like, I thought he was going to be more plug and play than he was.
I thought so too.
But yeah, I mean, it's March 17th. And so you have over a month until the draft, but free agency has pretty much dried up at that position. We had a list going back a month ago, 10 or 12 guys that you might have been somewhat happy with, and some were trades like Debo and DK and T. Higgins, which never happened, and then others were straight up free agents. They didn't get any of those guys. Nope. The whole thing was don't get shut out. They got shut out. Cooper Kupp, Devontae Adams, like go up and down the list. They got shut out. They didn't get any of those guys.
And we don't even know how in they were on anybody besides Godwin.
Yeah, right. They offered Godwin apparently.
Like,
great.
Were they even in on cut?
So what was the pivot? What was the plan B?
Were they even in on Mecca? It was obviously
Mac Hollins.
Yeah, thank you. Mac Hollins is exactly the pivot there.
All right.
So were they in on DK? Were they in on Kupp? Were they in on Devontae? It doesn't feel like it.
No, because
on any of those guys.
Right, because we questioned like what was the guaranteed money and all this stuff with Ronnie Stanley and Chris Godwin, but they've wanted everybody in the world to know they were in on it with those two.
Mm-hmm.
Crickets with
Haven't
everybody
heard a
else.
thing.
So there wasn't even a peep. Even if they picked up the phone once, I think we would have heard it on Cooper Kupp or DK Metcalf or whoever else.
So Colin Cowherd thinks they're a playoff team. Thinks Drake May is the second best quarterback in the division. Likes what they did this offseason. Likes the Vrabel hire. Are the Patriots a playoff team? What's your expectation for this season, knowing they have a last place schedule, an easy home schedule here in Foxborough? You can jump in, 617-779-7937. That's your phone number to get in touch with Jones and Keefe all day long. That's also your text line. You can interact on Twitter and Instagram at Jones and Keefe. We have the second round of the Jones and Keefe bracket in full swing. It'll be up shortly. You can see the full bracket at Jones and Keefe on Twitter and Instagram. You can vote on Twitter all day long at Jones and Keefe. You can watch today on twitch.tv/Boston WEEI and chat. Always a healthy chat going on Twitch and on YouTube. Just subscribe to WEEI. You mentioned some of the news, Keefe, over the weekend. Cooper Kupp, gone, signed with Seattle. T. Higgins, that dream is dead. Both he and Jamar Chase have been extended.
That is surprising
in Cincinnati.
I did not see that coming.
Not only did I not see it coming, I think Higgins kind of took a bad deal.
Yeah, I don't know why he did that.
He's getting like $28 million AAV, and again, you got to dig in on some of the full guarantees.
Well, part of that is they could have forced him to franchise, I guess. So you did have a little bit more control. He wasn't like an out-and-out free agent.
I would have.
Yeah, it seems like you could have gotten more.
I would have stuck on the franchise tag if I were him. I would have taken 1 year guaranteed versus the 2, and then tried to hit the market next year.
I agree.
But whatever. That's Cincinnati's bookkeeping. That dream is dead. So no Kupp, no Higgins. Although I thought that ship had kind of sailed. The other news today, Derek Stingley gets a massive deal in Houston. So now he on AAV is the highest paid corner, surpassing J.C. Horn and Patrick Surtain. So the price tag is ticking up on Christian Gonzalez, eventually, long term, for what you're going to have to pay him. And I think that factors in, Keefe, with what we were just discussing. The idea of letting the draft come to you. Well, what if Travis Hunter falls to you at 4, and it is a mock draft Monday. We'll give you a mock draft coming up at 10:45.
Nice.
What if Travis Hunter falls to you at 4? Are the Patriots going to take him knowing they have Christian Gonzalez and Carlton Davis? Do they look at him more as a receiver and say, oh, we are filling a need and we're drafting for need? Would it force them to push him to that side of the football? Would they draft him as a corner if they already have 2 corners at the NFL level? Will they reach for someone like Will Campbell? Will they reach for someone like T-Mac, Ted McMillan? Like, this is where it comes into play, illustrated through a player like Travis Hunter, who Karen Guregian wrote over the weekend. The Patriots consider Hunter not only the best cornerback in the draft, but also the best receiver as well.
No brainer then. If they truly believe that. If you think he's the best at both, because we had Shiman a couple of weeks ago, because Shime's one of the Travis Hunter haters out there, and there are some. We get texts all the time when we talk about Travis Hunter.
He is maybe the chief Travis Hunter hater.
And I was even trying to lowball it and say, all right, let's say you think he's the 3rd best receiver in the draft and the 3rd best corner, which isn't all that insulting, but let's just say that's where you come down on. Even then, he's worth the number 4 pick.
Right.
But if you being the Patriots front office thinks he's the best wideout and the best corner, hell, you should trade up for him then. If you truly think he's the best at 2 of the most important positions in football, then you shouldn't let him not get drafted by you.
Do you think he's the best receiver in the draft?
Yeah, because I don't love the receiver draft. Because I don't think he's like the perfect receiver.
That might be faint praise.
He wouldn't have been last year.
Saying he's the best receiver in the draft might say more about the receivers in the draft than his skill set.
I think so. And also, like, the overall draft isn't great. Nope. Last year we were talking about Marvin Harrison a lot, who I certainly like more as a receiver. Malik Neighbors, I like more.
All the quarterbacks
he
at
might
the top.
be closer to like Brian Thomas.
At the top. Yeah.
Not that he's the same type of receiver as Thomas, but just like he might be more like that. Yeah, all the receivers. It was really a very offensive-heavy draft a year ago. But I do think he's probably the best corner, maybe the 2nd best corner, but either way, like, that's still pretty good. That's still top 10 pick worthy if you're straight up just the best corner. And then if you're the best receiver in this class, right? Like, there's going to be a couple quarterbacks that get picked way higher than I would, like guys that I don't really like that much, but they're going to get picked because of the position they play. So yeah, even though you have Davis and Gonzalez, I would still take Hunter in a second.
So I would too. And I'm not against drafting for need. I've said this before. Mm-hmm. If you're a contending team and you need a receiver to go out there and try to win a championship, you should draft for need. I don't think that's a mistake to draft for need if your franchise is in the right spot. You're not in the right spot. At pick 4, you absolutely should be drafting the best player available. If that's Travis Hunter, I don't care that you have Carlton Davis and Christian Gonzalez. You might not pay Christian Gonzalez. Carlton Davis may be a bust. There's no reason to pass on him at 4 and draft for need at 4. And, for instance, reach for Will Campbell and pass on a guy you have more highly rated. If you're a bad team, if you're a contending team, I'm all for drafting for need, and I'm all for attacking those needs because that might be the difference between a championship and not winning one.
I would probably play him, too. Based on the roster, don't you say, hey, you're going to have to be more receiver than corner?
Yeah, but so this is my fear with that Guregian report. And I know we've heard it before. I can't remember now if it was Mark Daniels, also at Mass Live, or if it was the Herald. It might have been Kyden Callahan. I can't remember. But this is not the first time we've heard this report, that they have Travis Hunter number 1 on their board at corner and receiver. So I guess that makes me feel a little better. My fear is the Patriots are now trying to justify that he's a receiver, and he's actually our favorite receiver in the draft when I think most of the league views him as a corner first. So that would be my fear. They're kind of talking themselves into, we see him as a receiver because they have a massive need at receiver.
I think he can do both, and maybe I'm on an island with like how much he can do both, because we've argued with Wiggy a lot about it. He's like, no, you can't. Basically, you can play one spot and maybe sprinkle in. He thinks it's sort of like Marcus Jones, right? I mean, Wiggy played college with Champ Bailey, and he's like, if Champ Bailey can't do it, I just wonder if it's one of those things that it's such an old school mentality. Like, you play one side, that's it. Just like, for years and years and years, there would be no Shohei Ohtani because teams wouldn't allow it. They'd be like, you're pitching, so put the bat down and just pitch. I think if you let him do it, and I know the Big 12 is not the NFL. No, I'm well aware of that. But the guy played like 115 snaps a game. So what? Can you put that down to 80 snaps a game or 70 snaps a game? Or I think he can play more than 3 plays on whatever side of the ball you think is plan B. Like, so Elliott Wolf even had the line about he's going to major in one, minor in the other. And I guess that's fine if that's how you want to first approach it. But to me, if you're going to minor on one side of the ball, let's say there are 60 plays in a game, what will qualify as a minor to you? 20 of those plays?
Something like that, yeah. So he's playing a third of the time on offense and full time on defense.
That's pretty good to me.
That's a super valuable player. I agree. So, I don't believe in Travis Hunter fully as a receiver. I like him a lot as a prospect because I do think he can be an elite corner. I think there's value in that, and he can moonlight on offense. If I were going to project, that's what I think. But I would give him every chance to fail being a full-time player at both spots. Like, every single chance to fail. I would make sure I knew before I just said, yeah, he can't be a full-time receiver. No. Let him go out there, do it, and prove to you that he can't do it before you tell him he can't do it. I mean, that would fully be my approach with Travis Hunter. And if it doesn't work out, hopefully you still have an elite corner who's a gadget receiver. And I still think that's a super valuable player. If it hits and he's playing full-time or something close to it on both sides of the ball, well, now you don't just have an elite player. I mean, you have a unique player that could stand out in the history of the sport just about.